and women in the Trump team who I approached about this issue about the Hindus of Bangladesh. He's always been a strong supporter of the Hindu community. President Trump has now globalized the plight of Hindus in Bangladesh. Trump is a savior. Kamala Harris has ignored us over and over and over. They don't care about Bangladesh. In fact, they probably destroyed Bangladesh.
All right, joining us now, it's Utsav Sanduja, who's playing a very influential role in the Trump campaign this time around. You know, he's a very known figure here now. He's traveled to a lot of battleground states, campaigning with the Trump campaign, convincing a lot of voters to vote for Donald Trump. And yesterday, when President Donald Trump sent his tweet out for Diwali, that has, created this huge uproar among the community here in the U.S. and also people back home in India, trying to make sense of that tweet, what it meant. So we thought we'll bring in Utsav with us to talk about it. Utsav, first things first. I know you're very busy, so thank you so much for making time for us. When I saw that tweet, and the way it was written out, my head was like, it had your imprints on it. It kind of reminded me of your writing style. So tell me, and if I can ask you this, did you compose that tweet for President Trump to tweet out?
So it was really funny that you were able to pick up on some of this. So I actually contributed to some of the drafts. And the way it worked is that there are some wonderful men and women in the Trump team who I approached about this issue about the Hindus of Bangladesh. They were very, very concerned about it themselves. And I have to keep them anonymous because of just the way the campaign operates. So we had a very similar set of ideas on how to go about this, and so we put together some drafts. And this was before I created my political action committee, and I was very more involved in the campaign directly. And so I put this together with them, put briefs together. I also did a couple of actual briefings talking about the persecuted Hindus, the pogroms they're facing, the horrible things going on in Bangladesh, explained the geopolitical situation. Spoke to members of Congress, U.S. senators, U.S. representatives, lots of people. And they were very convinced. And so it was put together in August, and it just kind of was in the background for a while. And eventually I just wondered what the heck was going on. Maybe, other issues came up, things were going on, The president's also very busy. He's got a lot of responsibilities.
But for the fact that for him to choose Diwali to tweet this out and send this message out, which again, I'm going to ask you again, you obviously had a role to play in it. And you said, what you've captured up until now is that you've been talking to a lot of politicians about it on the Capitol Hill. You've been writing about this. You've talked about Bangladeshi Hindus. You've talked about Hindu Americans in India. Hindu Americans in the U.S. How did you guys convince President Trump to tweet that, especially on the day of Diwali?
So the way it happened is a lot of stuff was put in August, and then it was just kind of in the background for a while. And then after some time, I took a little bit of a distance, and I decided, we got to target more of these Hindu Americans. So I, as per FEC law, I took distance from the campaign, and I created my political action committee in early October. And I started managing this thing. And I was not privy to what was happening. And then one day on Diwali, I got this very nice notification that President Trump has put this out there. And I was shocked. And the way I looked at it was, wow, my prayers were answered. President Trump heard my prayer. He basically heard us, heard me out, and he just did it. And I am so grateful for President Trump, because this is something that has been a number one issue for a lot of Hindu advocacy organizations in Washington. It's been a topic of concern for many Pandajis in many mandirs. This has been an issue that I hear from BAP Swaminarayan. I've heard it from ISKCON. I've heard it from so many different groups that they're concerned. How do we help these Hindus? What can be done? And I listen to these wonderful people, and I just feel so bad. It's like I can't do anything for them. I can't give them money. I can't go to Bangladesh and put my life in danger. I can't go and write reports in Bangladesh because God knows what the heck is going on there. So I said, I'm gonna try to persuade the Trump campaign to look into this because this is something that I feel like that is within my actual abilities, what I can actually tangibly do. And so I just did this, and President Trump looked at the information, the data, the analysis, from what I hear, and he was very sold on it because he's always been a strong supporter of the Hindu community, and he just did it, and he did it on Diwali, and the whole world is now shocked because, like, President Trump has now globalized the plight of Hindus in Bangladesh, something that other governments have failed to do, other governments have tried to do, other governments had to maybe be quiet about. And I just think that Trump is a savior. He has now opened the door for others to go in and probably start talking about this. And
And
I'm
how much of
hoping.
this will Utsav play in the minds of some Indian American, Hindu American voters who still haven't
Sure.
voted, right? I mean, probably about
Yeah.
60 million people have voted in the US already. But when it comes to Indian American voters who are seen as a vote bank for the Democrats, how much of this tweet will play in the mind of those voters when they go and vote from now until November 5th?
So what I hear is that there was a Carnegie Endowment report that came out that shows that Kamala Harris, who is the first Indian origin presidential candidate, a major presidential candidate running for office, she has received support from the Indian community at around 60%, which is very low because going back to Obama, they were getting 80%. And Biden had like nearly 70% support.
42. Yeah.
So Kamala actually has dropped, and I'll take credit for that. I mean, obviously it goes to Trump mostly, but like we specifically target the Indian community, and we talked about Kamala's desire to intervene in the Kashmir conflict. We talked about her policies on education that were all about woke and DI and so on. So we informed a lot of voters about this sort of thing, and we see progress actually being made. And coming back to the question, the one thing we kept hearing at the doors was, you guys never going to talk about this issue of Bangladesh. And I spoke to people who are very religiously minded, and these guys are sitting out, not voting. They're just thinking, oh, I don't see a reason to vote for Trump because Trump doesn't care about this signature issue of mine. Kamala Harris has ignored us over and over and over, and she takes us for granted. She sends us fundraisers. Her PACs come for us, Hindus for Harris, and so on. And they don't really hear our issues. They keep calling us South Asians when we're identifying as Hindu Americans. And they don't care about Bangladesh. In fact, they probably destroyed Bangladesh because Biden Harris contributed to some of that interventionist policies. Yeah, because they've got Ned, and they've got all these other opposition figures and groups. And so what happened is I thought, okay, well, we got to win these votes. We also got to do the right thing and help Hindus in Bangladesh, and we've got to take care of them, and we've got to advocate for them. And I think the only person on earth that has this kind of star power that can shake the news is President Trump. And so that's why I went to those people. And
you think now those, after seeing that tweet, people will actually, Indian Americans and Hindu Americans who've traditionally voted for Democrats will switch their vote and be like, you know what,
yes,
Trump is our guy.
absolutely. I know folks for example, I don't want to name certain groups, alphabet groups, but I do know of several Hindu American groups that are, I would say, three-quarter Democrat. As a consequence of this, they're now 50-50 and are starting to go to Trump. I also have a long list of tabulation of donations to President Trump. I also have a lot of people giving me a lot of phone calls, people living in the swing states saying, oh, what's up, I just voted for Trump. And this is what I did, da, 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 da. And then I'm posting the text message with their permission saying, look, boom, they voted for Trump. People sending me video recordings. And I'm just like, wow, this is just an explosion of love for Trump. And what's very interesting is Kamala Harris has a Diwali video, doesn't mention Hindus at all. She has a CNN town hall. She didn't bring up her Hindu heritage. You read her book, she doesn't tell you the last mandir she attended as a child. She's never once spoken about the Hindus of Bangladesh. Here, President Trump comes out of nowhere, acknowledging the Hindus of Bangladesh, talks about who cares about Hindus in general, acknowledges the adversities they're going through, and wishes them a happy Diwali, and it's centered around the Hindu community. And
And
I'm
even
just like,
even even to add to that, so he talks about Americans in America. There have been temples that have been attacked and vandalized. He also talks about them and talks about his friendship with India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he goes about that, which is a great talking point for some of the, and I call them aunties and uncles. Who the first generation who migrated in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, who have a very strong affinity towards culture and their Indianness. Is he appealing to those aunties and uncle G's, trying to say, hey, you know what, you've voted for traditionally for the Democrats, vote for me now?
I think the Trump campaign is focused more on more broader macro issues that affects all Americans as many Americans as possible. So I created my political action committee in early October to focus more on these specific voters so that they could receive more tailor-made messaging, talking points, and so on. And my wife, who's also my treasurer, a very smart lady, Emma Sanduja, she was able to look at the economics and understood the kind of economic factors affecting Indian Americans. And we put together white papers, strategy papers, talking points, that looked at the Trump tax plan, the Harris tax plan, and we were able to sell it to the voters. And we've been getting a lot of folks to come to the Trump side. I will say this though: I reached out to Marla Maples, who was married to President Trump, a wonderful lady. She was very supportive of what we're doing. She mentioned that she would try to get a hold of RFK Jr., who is the son of RFK, the Attorney General, who served under John F. Kennedy's administration. And, the Kennedy family is beloved by the Indian community because the Kennedys did so much for the community, for the Indian community with immigration, supporting Indo-US relations. I'm hoping that we might have an 11th hour help from RFK Jr. This is one thing I'm doing. Another thing is that I had a very great Diwali event. So, Kamala hasn't had a formal Diwali event. Okay. I know Walls has had some event, but we
Yeah, he
beat
had
them
one in
to it.
Pennsylvania yesterday.
Correct. We beat them to it. Okay. We had an event with a national director of intelligence, and I invited the leaders of BAP Swaminarayan. I invited ISKCON. I invited HSS. I invited VHPA. I invited so many different groups, one after the other. And I asked them, look, don't get involved in this political process. You're 501c3s. We just want you to be there to just share what are your general concerns. Obviously, don't take a side. You have to respect your nonprofit status, but just share what Hindus are concerned about, what's going on. And we had a very great Diwali discussion. And that's what we did. And this was in Houston, Texas, a few days ago. I facilitated this. I put it together. I made the calls. I literally touched the feet of the Swamis and asked for their respect, and really, really put my like heart and soul into this whole process, because I am very worried that Hindus do not have good support anywhere in our government, anywhere in our political process. I don't care which party, which campaign. It doesn't exist because we're so small, and we have a long way to go in trying to get this movement together. You talk about uncles and aunties. I won't name names. There's a lot of infighting, a lot of jealousy, a lot of drama. People telling folks, don't go to my event, or don't go to his event because he's somebody else. Don't go to this person's event because I don't like this guy. A lot of this nonsense going on in our community. And
And
I am telling those uncles and aunties right now, end this conflict. We need to get Trump in. We need to win this election. And Trump has delivered a solid, tangible, where he talks about the Bangladeshi Hindus. Work with me and let's be united, and get this wonderful man in office and make America great again. And that's my personal appeal. That's my Diwali appeal to uncles and aunties everywhere. Let's
One
work
last
together.
question, Utsav, before I let you go. I know you have a very busy schedule. One last question. What do you feel about Trump's chances in this election? We are statistically, we're tied in these polls. What do you feel? What are you gathering from the Trump campaign? How confident are they about winning this election?
They're very, very happy. They're very impressed. They're seeing that they're actually targeting very successfully a lot of males from the African American community, Latino community, Jewish community, white community. They're blowing up across the board. It doesn't matter what race you are. Even Indian American men, according to that Carnegie Endowment report, it is showing a lot of support from the men. And so I'm thinking this could be the very interesting multiracial coalition of males supporting Trump. And this is going to disprove the idea that Trump is a white supremacist. He's getting support from all races. It's beautiful. I'm so happy. And I'm thinking to myself that, when we look at this data, in particular with Latinos, Arizona is looking like pretty good. Georgia looking pretty good, especially with Asian Americans, Koreans, Chinese, Vietnamese, Indians, African Americans. There's a lot of good vibes coming out of Michigan, and they're seeing that the Arab community, Muslim community, is throwing their lot behind President Trump. And I'm just thinking, well, that's not bad. That's pretty good. Can we get some Swamis? Can we get some Pandajis? Can we get some Hindus too? Can we mix this up? Can we add some nice masala to this whole thing? Can we really give more support? Fingers crossed. I'm hoping we'll get there. It's tough. Every day is a day that can be used in this campaign, and I'm going to do the best I can to get the Hindu community a real voice in the Trump campaign, in the Republican Party, because they're entitled to it. And frankly speaking, they're wonderful men and women, and they do a lot of great service to us. They just deserve that representation. And
Thank you
President
so
Trump loves them.
Thank you so much, Utsav, for speaking with us on such a short notice. Indeed, the election is very, very close, and the coalitions that you're talking about, we've never seen something like that, which is coming together, especially when you talk about President Donald Trump and his supporters. It could be either a blowout, as some people have said, the polls could be completely off. It could be a completely blowout for either candidate. It could be Trump or could be Kamala Harris. But we'll have those updates for all of our viewers here on India Today Global. Thank you so much for joining us, Utsav. We'll talk to you on election night, and we'll probably take some more inputs from you after the election. Thank you so much and have a
Take
wonderful day.
care.